Hi, we're Richard and Jackie from Early Retirement Wanderlust. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, the van is packed and we are setting off for Portsmouth to get the Santander Ferry in our VW campervan.
It's also a bank holiday Friday and Google is saying it's 6 hours to Portsmouth, so what could possibly go wrong? Our first hurdle of the journey is allegedly the M6 is shut just outside Warsaw, which is a rare delight. Google seems to be looking after us. There were no signs on the motorway that it was shut, but everyone seems to be coming this way following sat-nav, so it's still giving us 3 hours 24 down to Portsmouth, so fingers crossed. But these things happen and that's why we've set off with so much time to spare. I still think we've got plenty of time to be in Portsmouth, but yeah.
Yay, we've made it, and it's 5:30 on a Friday and we've survived the bank holiday weekend traffic. So we're in Portsmouth, we've got 4 hours until the ferry, so the best thing that we can do is find the Wetherspoons that are at Port Solent, go and have a nice slap-up meal before we get on the ferry, and then just relax.
There are many advantages of living in the Dales, but one of the disadvantages is that we are miles from the south coast and it's always the hardest part of the journey. You just never really know how long it's going to take, so SatNav said it was 6 hours, I think it was about 6.5 in the end, but we've left ourselves almost double the time because these ferries only go every couple of days, and if you miss your ferry, you're done for. So it's with huge relief that we're now down and on our way to Wetherspoons.
On our journey back, we've actually booked a really late ferry. It doesn't get back in till about 9 o'clock, so I think we're actually going to stay here. It's free as long as you ring and tell the staff at Port Solent that you're staying overnight, and at the moment there must be at least 15 campervans and motorhomes here.
So we're just about to book in. This is the exciting bit because for me it means that everything stops for the next 36 hours and we can't do anything apart from eat, drink, sleep and enjoy the journey. Despite having done this before, we always get caught out and it feels a little bit stressful because we're about to go through security and then we know it's all going to go really quickly, and when you're on the ferry, you can't return to the van. So you have to make sure you've got everything you could possibly need in terms of food, clothes, books, computers, everything. And we thought we'd been really good and we'd packed a couple of bags ready for that with just a few things to add in. But when you're here in the queue, you feel the pressure and it's best to be organised because, yeah, it feels a little bit jittery. What are you doing, Jax?
Well, I'm just emptying the fridge of all our little goodies that we've got for on the ferry. The biggest bag actually is the bag with some wine and some beers in, and then we've just got lots of picnic stuff. decision time. Do we have a bottom and top bunk, or do we have 2 bottom bunks each, or do we just go for the 2 top bunks? There's just too many choices.
Morning and welcome to our humble abode for the next couple of nights. We are currently on the Santander, which is Brittany ferries crossing from Portsmouth down to Santander in northern Spain.
It isn't actually the cheapest way that we could get to Spain, and it's probably not the quickest because we could have gone into Bilbao, but we did choose this ferry for reasons that we'll go through in a minute. So the costs for getting our VW campervan with a bike rack on it, just one way to Santander, was £566 plus another £15 for the bike rack plus £125 for the cabin, of which you have for 2 nights, which does make it a much more comfortable crossing. But we will go through the reasons why we've chosen to come on this quite expensive route.
It's fair to say that we are on an internal cabin, despite the fact that we've got a beautiful view outside. It looks beautiful at the moment. We didn't have an option to book anything but an internal cabin, and it's absolutely fantastic. But the big question comes as to why we chose to do this longer and much more expensive crossing than simply going Dover-Calais and then driving all the way down through France. And for us, probably the first and probably minor thing is that it's a much easier drive down to Portsmouth. I found, although it was still a long journey, it was about 6.5 hours on the way down here, it's so much easier than having to navigate the M25 and get yourself all the way across to Dover. And Dover gets you into Calais, which is then obviously quite a way east, and you've got to cross France. So even if we were driving across France, it would take us a couple of days to get down to the Spanish border anyway, at the pace we like to drive.
And we did look at going from Caen and driving down to Spain from that side of France, and that was still a little bit more expensive than going from Dover. It was probably £300 cheaper than getting this ferry, but we would have still had to pay the French tolls, we would have still had to pay to stay at campsites on the way down, and it still would have taken just as long. And actually, we're seeing this ferry journey as a little bit of an adventure. It's like a little mini cruise.
What we're really liking is it's an opportunity to slow down. We haven't got any signal, which is absolutely brilliant, and we just got 24 hours on here. So we woke up really fresh this morning and really quite excited in the fact that we've got nothing to do for 24 hours. There's loads of stuff on the ship that we'll show you around that you can get up to, but in essence, we're just using it as a way of relaxing prior to our big adventure in northern Spain and Portugal.
If you're watching this video and you're thinking of doing this route, you probably want to have a really good tour of what's available on the boat. So we'll get going. The accommodation is over 3 floors, and there are just miles and miles of corridors like this with the cabins on either side.
Each of the accommodation decks all have access to outdoor decks that are interlinked, so you can always get outside and get a little bit of fresh air. But on a day like this, maybe there's a bit too much fresh air.
Perfect weather conditions today for just lying around and sunbathing. Watch this amazing colour.
Now, it may seem that the weather conditions are really rough at the moment, but it's been really kind to us. We're heading through the Bay of Biscay, and allegedly it can get much, much worse. One of the things that reassured Jackie about the ship is that it's got its own helicopter landing pad, which bizarrely this morning it was actually used. So we were on deck having a pootle around and taking images of a helicopter that was circling around, and then the announcement came that it was going to do an emergency landing for a medical need. So that was a bit of a rude awakening this morning, but also really reassuring that if you're on a boat miles from anywhere, they can always come and get you. All around the ship there is amazing contemporary artwork, and such a modern ship has a really modern feel.
That was a really windy walk up on the decks, but we did call off at the duty free and bought ourselves a little tipple to try tonight. So what did we get for our £125 for the 2 nights in the cabin? I think we'll have a little bit of a tour, but I'm going to say now, it's not going to take very long.
The cabin is, I think, a little bit bijou maybe. For the 2 of us, it's really spacious and it's really comfortable, and we are just using the bottom bunks. If you had to use the top bunks and you were travelling as a family of 4, I think it would be perhaps a little bit of a squeeze. It feels a little bit of a squeeze, to be honest, anyway, when you're travelling with someone like Jackie, because she's actually exiled me outside the door when I was eating crisps because apparently there is not enough soundproofing, or it's just a little bit too close. So I had to go outside to eat my crisps. But it's a good job I didn't go out of the window. It's a really bizarre concept in the fact that it's obviously an artificial window, but you can dim it down and it changes as the day goes on. So it actually feels like we're not in a tiny little box, but we are in a cabin with a beautiful view.
I'm just going to say there's probably plenty of you out there that would agree with me. Someone chewing crisps in your ear is just not a great sound. So yes, I did exile him, and he's learnt he's not going to have any more in here either. With it being quite a new boat, the cabin is really modern, and something that surprised us was the amount of plugs. There's actually 4 USB points altogether, and there are 2 English plugs and 2 European plugs. So there is plenty of opportunities if you need to get anything recharged. We've got our laptops with us, so it's really, really handy.
In such a small cabin, there's a surprising amount of storage space. There's a little closet around here where you can hang your clothes. There's actually a ladder for the upper bunks, which I never realised. There is a fancy dancy mirror, because if you're going to get dressed up to go out, which obviously I never do, you might want to check out the mirror. There's a makeup mirror there, which is really useful. And despite it being a really quite minimal cabin, the lighting in here is wonderful, because you can set it to various lighting conditions and you can dim it down, and it's really, really cozy. And it's just a little home from home for a couple of nights. There is a TV. We're not TV people, but we haven't worked out how to use it yet. But I'm sure that, you know, if you wanted TV entertainment, then you could fire it up.
For such a small cabin, there is actually an ensuite, so through this little door is a whole world of joy. But I'm going to leave that to Richard and his Rate My Shower.
Welcome to the Brittany Ferries inside cabin on the Santona. Contemporary, well-designed and minimalistic ensuite space. A remarkable minimalist shower tray design that, much to my surprise, worked fantastically. Clean and modern, medium-sized shower head, providing a constant flow of high-pressure hot water. Temperature regulation is always a welcome feature. A highly efficient drainage system for such a low-profile shower tray. My biggest fear, but no nasty shower curtain clinging moments in a surprisingly roomy shower area. In such a small space, efficient ventilation is always required. A modular hand basin sticks with the clean lines theme. Complimentary towels. No need to pack for the 2 nights on board. Overall strengths, cleanliness, hot water and incredible drainage. Areas to improve, places to put things and a lack of hooks. Overall, a very impressive score of 44 out of 50 for the Brittany Ferries Santona.
So it is a ferry that takes 2 nights and you have 1 full day on the ferry, and you can't get access to the van if you forget anything. I forgot my toothbrush, which was a major disaster, but they did sell them in the shop and it was £4.50. I won't make that mistake again. We did bring 3 bags on board. We bought a bag of all our clothes. We bought a bag with lots of food in so we can have a picnic and a bottle of wine. And we bought a bag with our laptops and all our electronics on it. So we were quite organised, and fingers crossed there isn't anything else that we've forgotten.
So we've come to the cafeteria restaurant and it's a little bit of a feast actually. I've got pasta carbonara, Richard's got paella with the huge prawns in and a pudding each. We did go for a carafe of pink wine and all for the price of €45.
So how's your paella, Rich?
It's really good. It's as you would expect. It's a bit like what we cook at home, so it's got loads of meating. It's absolutely packed out, and then 1 or 2 suspicious things that I wouldn't cook at home, but it's all fine. And when in Spain,
we have actually been on this ferry once previously, and the morning that you arrive in Santander is quite a frenetic morning from a very early start.
you need to steel yourself because it's very different, and we got caught out really badly. The tannoy announcements start from really early and do not stop. They give you reminders seemingly every 10 minutes because what they wanted to do is to get everyone up, get everyone out, because you can't start disembarking the cars if people are still in bed. So Yeah, they are pretty persistent at getting you up.
So just make sure that you are packed up the night before and you've got most things ready to go.
Morning.
So we're just waiting for the boat to dock. It's been quite an incredible 36 hours. We feel pretty calm, pretty relaxed, ready to go.
Yeah, when we set out on this and when we made the booking, we knew that we were going to get a relaxed journey down rather than having to drive across France for 2 days. And all the time I was sat there in the cabin or on the boat, I was thinking, yeah, I could be behind the wheel and driving. And there's no regrets because we're fully refreshed and ready to go.
The weather all the way down has been pretty overcast and miserable on the ship, but we've woken up this morning. The sun is shining, there was a really beautiful sunrise, and Santander is looking pretty. Well, as predicted, we were woken up really, really early. They did lull us into a false sense of security. We had really beautiful, gentle music from 5:45, and then at 6 o'clock, the bing bong started, and they were going off about every 5 minutes with announcements. The only way to get out of the way of them was to get back to the van.
And we spent quite a while sitting on the car deck, which it's a huge ferry to disembark. And I found the whole process absolutely fascinating. Obviously, I would. It was like a 2-floor car deck, and a little trapdoor opened and it went down into a slope. So they emptied out the bottom deck, and then we had to circle round, go down this little trapdoor, and then we were off. And we've spent most of the day just exploring the Santander area, and it's just been absolutely beautiful. But more of that in next week's video.
So we did think, just to round off this video, that we would perhaps go through, to us, some of the pros and cons of getting the longer ferry from Portsmouth to Santander, perhaps against going either from Portsmouth to Caen or Dover to Calais.
Let's start with the positives. I felt entirely rested after the whole journey. I thought it was brilliant that we could slow down. As a driver, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I could just sit there and get transported pretty much half the length of Europe and then get off the ferry this morning completely refreshed.
And I actually thought it was just a whole little mini adventure that was part of our little holiday. I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't want to be on a longer, we've never been on a cruise, and I wouldn't want to be on a longer ship, but I did just really enjoy that chilled start to the holiday.
The cabin, I thought, was fantastic. It was everything that you needed. Granted, it was an inside cabin, but I don't really know what you get from an outside cabin, to be honest. It was really clean, it was really comfortable, and it had an amazing shower. So what more could you want?
And we thought everything on the ship was really reasonably priced. So we had a meal out. It was €45 for 2 meals, 2 puddings, and a 3/4 of a bottle of wine carafe. I didn't think that was bad. And the breakfasts were reasonably priced, and we had coffees both mornings.
And the staff were just really attentive and really friendly, and it seemed to pass really, really quickly. So yeah, those were the positives. Some of the negatives?
For me, we were on the ship for 36 hours, and Richard really liked this bit, but there was no Wi-Fi as such. The free Wi-Fi is there. I just about managed to download some emails, but I didn't want to pay for the Wi-Fi. You could have paid £3 for an hour, which was supposed to give you slightly better Wi-Fi. It's only a tiny niggle. Actually, I quite enjoyed just reading my book. But if you did need to be in contact, if you we've got children and we've got family at home that might have had to get hold of us, I would have liked to have known that they could, but small minor thing.
There's no getting around it. It is quite an expensive ferry crossing. You are on the ferry for a long time, but it's considerably more expensive than maybe a one-way Dover-Calais that you could pick up for probably about £140. But you've then got to get yourself all the way across France. You've got the fuel cost, you've got the wear and tear on the van, you've got potential toll costs, and just the physical costs of driving for 2 days before you even get into Spain.
Now, we actually were okay on this next point. Our crossings, and we've done this journey twice now, was really calm, and we had no issues at all with feeling a little bit travel sick. But we do know people that have been on this ferry journey. It goes through the Bay of Biscay, and it has been pretty horrendous and really rough. So whether it's just that we're lucky, or I don't know, maybe people exaggerate, but I have heard horror stories.
Yeah, I think we've just been really lucky. So that's it. We're here, we're refreshed, we're ready to go. We're not actually sure where we're going to go, but more of that in next week's video. So until then, we will see you later. Bye.
Bye.